So in this episode, I want to add a feature so that when I change files in either of these folders here, it automatically rebuilds the website again. So to do that, I'm going to use a package called chockydar from chockydar. It's kind of a weird package name. And here I want to do const watcher equals chockydar watch. Then we want to give it the path to the folder that I want to watch. And I want it to be persistent. So let's change that back to watch. And before I go any further there, what I want to do is I want to add a function here. I'm trying to decide a function name for it. Get all pages, I guess. I'll call it get all pages for now. We basically just want to move that into there so that we're not having to copy and paste it everywhere. And with watch, I want to do watch.on add. This will be an async function. We can put the path in there, and what we'll do is we'll log which path. So this is a path to either a file or a directory that's been added. And whenever we add a file or directory to this source file, to this source folder, we will console log it. And then I want to do await get all pages. And again, I want to copy this and actually put it here. And I want to do change. And then also unlink. What we're doing here is if a file is added, changed, or deleted, we want to run this function up here, which takes all our page data up here and renders them to our output folder. So let's try that out. There we go. So we can see it found the first 3 files that are in there. And now if I go to home.edge and add in something like hello world and save it, you can see it's now logging that file again because it's been changed. If I had a new one called, let's say, contact.edge, there we go. And then if we delete it as well, perfect. So we now have a file listener or file watcher that will automatically rebuild our website every time we make a change to any file inside this source folder. The next thing I want to do to this project is have a data folder where I can dynamically import different JS files that will contain information, say like a global site configuration, and then have that pass through to our render function so that I can use like a global set of variables across all my templates. To do that, I'm going to start off by creating this data folder, and in here I'll have a config.js. In this, I'll then export a default object with name, my site, and a description. This is my site. Easy. And then in my root directory, down here, I'll have a fileloader.js. Now in this fileloader.js, I need to dynamically import all of the files inside this data folder and then return an object that contains all of the fetched information from these files in the data folder. So to do that, I'll start by doing import read directory from fs promises and import path from path. I'll actually change this just to join. And I'll define where our data directory is. In this case, it's source data. And then I'll export an async function called fetch globals. In here, I'll have a data object, and we'll also scan the data directory using read directory, which will return an array of all the files in that directory. Next, I'll have a promise.all and do files.map async file. And in here, firstly, we want to get rid of any files that don't end with JS. So I'll do, if they end with JS, I'll just return, and we'll do that. So now all our JS files are left. And for JS files, we want to do const module name equals path dot base name file and then JS. We also want to get its path by doing join data directory and module name. Actually, we want to do file in that case. And then we want to do const module equals await import new URL module path import.meta.url. And then right at the end of this, we want to do default. So we're importing the default here, and we're setting it to module here. Finally, I want to do if type of module equals object. So if we're just exporting a normal object, we want to do data module name. We want to replace the .js here with nothing. And then we want to give it the module that we just imported. Finally, at the bottom of this function, I want to return the data object. Now, in our index.js, I want to do here, I want to do const. This will be a let actually, let globals, that's just an empty object. And then in main, I want to do globals should equal fetch globals. And then to make sure that we have our globals loaded, I'll just log it to the terminal. And then if we go ahead and test it by running node index, you can see we now have our config, and in there we have name and description. Now to pass this to our render function, we can actually just create a new object, we can iterate data onto it, and also our globals. Then in our home.edge file here, let's say right at the top, we want a h1 tag. We'll do config.name. And I think that's just errored because in our file loader, we don't seem to be replacing the .js. So could I do return the last portion of the path? There we go. So if we go to our output, we go to home, now see our h1 tag that says my site. So next I want to add support for fetching data from an API and rendering that to our home file here. So to do that, I'll start off by making a pokemon.js file, and in here I'll export an async function named fetch Pokemon, and this will do return fetch https pokeapi.cur API v2 Pokemon. There we go. And then I'll do then response.json, then JSON. I'll just do JSON results so that we just get the first 20 Pokemon from the API. Then in our file loader, I'll do if type of module equals function. I'll do this again, but instead of just assigning our module, we'll do await module. So actually awaiting this function inside Pokemon.js and then assigning it to data.pokemon. So if we go here, we'll actually stop this process and restart it. You can see we now have our config and we have the Pokemon array. We go to our home.edge, and here I'll do each Pokemon, I'll say Pokemon in Pokemon, and in here I'll just do a list item with poke.name. I'll actually put this in a tag like that, and then save it, restart this again, go to our home page, and we now have a list of all the Pokemon from the first page returned by the Pokemon API. So just to recap, we added support for watching when files get changed or added and then rebuilding the site. And we also added support for global configuration files and fetching data from an API and passing those through to our templates. If you liked the video, be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.